Chun Hanuman Temple, and we'll be continuing with our reading of Tulsidas Ramcharitamanas. So this is the 20th of the readings that began during the month of May, and we'll continue until we complete the Ramayana, which will be sometime around May 2022. Jai Sitaram. So we're in Ayodhya Kand now, and Ram has already made his decision to go to the forest. And now Sita has been quite distressed learning about this, afraid that there may be a separation from her Lord. And the mothers are all very, very distressed, knowing that the imminent departure of Sri Ram for the forest. So there's much anxiety, anticipation, grief, sadness, and at this dedication that Ram has to this vow of observing what the vow of his father is, Dasarat, what his vow is causing to happen now by way of Kaikeyi. So we will pick up where we could finish last week, and there's just a little bit of a section that I'll read that we completed last week, right at the end of the reading. So, and this is, you can hear the sadness and the power of what an incredible parting this is for everyone in Ayodhya, of course. May all the gods and manes protect you, Lord of the earth, as the eyelids protect the eyes. The term of exile is like water, while your near and dear ones resemble the fish that live on it. As for yourself, you are a fountain of mercy and a champion of virtue. Remembering this, please devise some means to see that you come back in time to find them all alive. I adjure you to proceed to the woods in good cheer, abandoning your servants, family, and the whole city. The fruit of everyone's meritorious deeds is exhausted today, and the tide of fortune has turned against us, assuming a sullen aspect. Thus, wailing in many ways, Mother Kaushalya clung to Sri Ram's feet, accounting herself the most unlucky woman. Her heart was filled with terrible and deep agony, and the profusion of wailings was beyond all description. Sri Ram lifted his mother and pressed her to his bosom, and then comforted her with soothing words. That very moment, Sita heard the news and rose in great agitation. She approached her mother-in-law, reverenced her lotus feet, and sat down, bowing her head. The mother-in-law blessed her in gentle accents and felt distressed when she regarded her most delicate form. With her head bent low, Sita, who was beauty personified and cherished unalloyed love toward her Lord, sat reflecting. The Lord of my life would depart to the forest. It has yet to be seen who will have the good fortune to accompany him, my body and soul together, or my soul alone. What God intends to do cannot be foreseen, even partly. As she scratched the ground with the lovely nails of her toes, her anklets produced a musical sound, as if, so declare the poets, they lovingly prayed that Sita's feet may never abandon them. Seeing her shed tears from her charming eyes, Sri Ram's mother broke the silence. Listen, my dear child. Sita is exceedingly delicate and the pet of her father-in-law and mothers-in-law and the whole family. She has for her father Janaka, the jewel among princes, while her father-in-law is no other than the son of the solar race, your father. As for her lord, yourself, he is a veritable moon for the lily-like progeny of the sun god and a repository of goodness and beauty. Again, I have found in her a beloved daughter-in-law who is amiable and accomplished, and beauty personified. I have treated her as the very apple of my eye and loved her evermore. Nay, my very life is centered in Janaki. I have fostered her in many ways as a celestial creeper and nourished her by feeding her with the water of affection. Just when the creeper was about to blossom and bear fruit, God turned against me, and there is no knowing what will be the consequence. Born invariably on a bedstead, seat, swing, or my own lap, Sita has never set her foot on hard ground. I have been tending her like a life-giving herb and never asked her even to stir the wick of a lamp. The same Sita would accompany you to the woods and awaits your orders. O Lord, the Raghus, how can a female chakora bird who loves to feed on the nectar born on the rays of the moon bear to fix her gaze on the sun? Hosts of wild elephants, lions, demons, and other fell creatures roam about in the woods. Can a beautiful life-giving herb fit in with a poison wood, my boy? For residing in the forest, God has created Kola and Kirata girls who are foreign to sensuous pleasures, adamantine by nature, like the insect living in a stone. They never experience any hardships in the woods. Another class fit for the forest are the hermit women, who have renounced all pleasures for the sake of penance. But how, my son, will Sita live in the forest? She who is frightened to see even the picture of a monkey. Is a female cygnet who disports in the lovely lotus beds of the Manasa lake fit for a muddy puddle? First ponder this. Then, as you order, I will instruct Janaka's daughter. If she stays at home, the mother continued, that will mean a great solace to me. When Sri Ram, the hero of Raghu's race, heard this endearing speech of his mother, imbued as it were with the nectar of grace and affection, he comforted her by addressing tender and wise words to her. And then he started admonishing Janaki by disclosing to her the advantages and disadvantages of forest life. Even though he hesitated in speaking to her in the presence of his mother, he realized within himself the emergency of the situation and said, "Listen to my advice, O princess, and do not misunderstand me. If you wish well of me as well as of yourself, please accept my suggestion and stay at home. You will be obeying my order and rendering service to your mother-in-law by remaining at home, O good lady. You will be benefited in every way. For a woman, there is no other duty more sacred than reverently adoring the feet of her husband's parents. Whenever my mother thinks of me and feeling disconsolate due to her love for me and loses her balance of mind, do you console her with consoling and soothing words by narrating old legends to her. I tell you sincerely and solemnly, it is for my mother's sake, O charming lady, that I leave you here. By staying at home in deference to my wishes, you will easily obtain the reward of virtue approved by one's elders and the Vedas. Whereas by giving themselves over to obduracy, the sage Galava, King Nahusa, and all others suffered great hardships. As for myself, listen, O fair and sensible lady, I will soon return after redeeming my father's word. Days will steal away quickly. Therefore, heed my advice, O charming lady. If, on the other hand, you persist in your obstinacy due to your affection for me, O pretty one, you will eventually come to grief. The forest is rugged and most dreadful, with its terrible heat, cold, rain, and blasts. The tracks are beset with prickly grass and thorns and stones of various kinds, and you will have to tread them without any shoes. Your lotus-like feet are delicate and lovely, while the paths are most difficult and intercepted by huge mountains, caves and chasms, streams, rivers and rivulets that are unapproachable, unfathomable and terrible to look at. Bears and tigers, wolves, lions and elephants raise such a cry as staggers one's presence of mind. The ground will be your couch, and the bark of trees your raiment, while bulbs, fruits, and roots will be your food. And do you think even these latter will be available to you all the year round? You will get everything according to its season. Man-eating demons roam about in the woods and assume all sorts of deceptive forms. The water of the hills is exceedingly unwholesome. The hardships of the forest are beyond all description. There are terrible serpents and fierce wild birds and multitudes of demons who steal both man and woman. The boldest shudder at the very thought of the forest, while you, O fawn-eyed lady, are timid by nature. You are not fit for the woods, O fair lady. The world will revile me when they hear that I am taking you to the forest. Can a female cygnet, who has been brought up in the nectarine water of the Manasa lake, live in the salt water of the ocean? Can a cuckoo, who has made that merry in a young mango grove, have its appropriate place in a thicket of karila bushes? Pondering this in your heart, stay at home, O moon-faced lady. The hardships of the forest are great. He who does not reverently follow the advice of a disinterested friend, preceptor, and master has to repent fully at heart and surely harms himself. When Sita heard these soft and winning words of her beloved Lord, her lovely eyes filled with tears. His soothing advice proved as scorching to her as a moonlit autumnal night to a female Chakravaka bird. Videha's daughter could make no answer. She was filled with agony to think that her pious and loving Lord would leave her behind. Perforce restraining her tears, Earth's daughter took courage and, throwing herself at her mother-in-law's feet, spoke to her with her two palms joined together. Forgive, O venerable lady, my great impudence. The Lord of my life has tendered me only such advice as is conducive to my best interest. I have, however, pondered within myself and realized that there is no calamity in this world as great as being torn away from one's beloved Lord. O Lord of my life, abode of mercy, handsome, genial, and wise, O moon for the lily-like race of Raghu, without you, heaven would be as obnoxious as hell. Father and mother, sisters and dear brothers, beloved kinsmen and friends, father-in-law and mother-in-law, preceptor and relatives, allies and even sons, however good-looking, well-behaved and congenial, nay, whatever ties of affection and kinship there exist, to a woman bereft of her beloved Lord, they are far more tormenting than the scorching sun. Life, riches, house, land, city, and kingdom, all these are mere accoutrements of woe to a woman bereft of her Lord. Luxury to her is loathsome, like a disease, and ornaments a burden, while the world is like the torments of hell. Without you, Lord of my life, nothing in this world is delightful to me. As the body without a soul, and a river without water, even so, my Lord, is a woman without her husband. In your company, my Lord, I shall be happy in every way, so long as I behold your countenance resembling the cloudless moon of an autumnal night. Birds and beasts will be my kindred, the forest my city, and the bark of trees my spotless robes. And a hut of leaves in the company of my Lord will be as comfortable as the abode of gods. The generous-hearted sylvan gods and goddesses will take care of me like my own father-in-law and mother-in-law. A charming litter of grass and tender leaves will, in the company of my Lord, vie with Cupid's own lovely cushion. Bulbs, roots, and fruits will be my ambrosial food, while mountains will be as good as 100 royal mansions of Ayodhya. Gazing on the lotus feet of my Lord every moment, I shall remain as cheerful as a female Chakrabaka bird during the daytime. You have mentioned a number of hardships and perils, woes and afflictions attendant with forest life. But all of these put together will hardly compare with an iota of the pangs of separation from my Lord. O fountain of mercy, bearing this in mind, O crest jewel of wise men, take me with you. Pray, do not leave me behind. I refrain from making a lengthy submission, my Lord, knowing as I do that you are all merciful and have access to the hearts of all. If you leave me in Ayodhya till the expiry of your exile, you may rest assured that I shall not survive. O friend of the afflicted, O handsome and congenial Lord, O storehouse of amiability and affection. As I walk along the road, I shall know no fatigue gazing on your lotus feet all the while. I shall render all sorts of service to my beloved Lord, yourself, and shall relieve him of all the toil occasioned by the journey. Laving your feet and resting in the shade of a tree, I shall fan you with a cheerful heart. Beholding your swarthy form bedewed with sweat and casting a look on the Lord of my life, I can have no occasion for grief. Spreading grass and leaves of trees on an even patch of ground, this handmaid of yours will knead your feet overnight. Even as I gaze on your tender form again and again, hot winds will have no effect on me. Who can dare look at me when I am by the side of my Lord, any more than a hare or jackal would regard a lioness? How true it is that I am delicate of body, while my Lord is fit to bear the hardships of a forest life, that it behooves you to undergo penance, while it is worthwhile for me to loll in luxuries. When my heart did not resent, even on hearing such cruel words, I am sure my wretched self shall live to bear the terrible pangs of separation from my Lord. So saying, Sita was overwhelmed with distress. She could not bear her Lord's separation even in words. Seeing her condition, the Lord of Raghus was convinced in his heart of hearts that if left behind against her will, she would not survive. The all-merciful Lord of the solar race therefore said, "Give up lamentation and accompany me to the forest. Grief is out of season today. Prepare yourself for the journey to the woods at once." Consoling his beloved consort with these endearing words, the Lord threw himself at his mother's feet and received her blessings. Pray, return soon and relieve the people's distress, and see that your heartless mother is not forgotten. Shall the tide of my fortune ever turn, O goodness, that I may behold the charming pair with my eyes again? When my dear son will arrive, the auspicious day and blessed hour, that your mother shall live to see your moonlike countenance. When again shall I call you, my darling, my pet child, O Lord of Raghus, O chief of Raghus' race, my boy, and summoning you, clasp you to my bosom and gaze upon your limbs with delight. Seeing that his mother was too overwhelmed with emotion to speak anymore, and was greatly agitated, Sri Ram consoled her in various ways. The gravity of the occasion and the intensity of affection was more than one could describe. Janaka's daughter then threw herself at her mother-in-law's feet and said, "I tell you, mother, I am most unlucky. in that at a time when I should have served you, heaven has exiled me to the forest and has refused to grant my desire. Pray, be not perturbed any more, but at the same time, cease not to entertain kindly feelings towards me. Relentless is fate, and there is no fault of mine either. The mother-in-law was so distressed to hear Sita's words that I have no words to describe her condition. Again and again she pressed her daughter-in-law to her breast, and recovering herself admonished and blessed her. May the blessed state of your wifehood, the longevity of your husband, know no break, and endure so long as the streams of the Ganga and Yamuna continue to flow. The mother-in-law blessed and admonished Sita in various ways, and the latter parted from her, most affectionately bowing her head at her lotus feet again and again. When Lakshman got the news, he started up in confusion and ran with a doleful face, trembling all over with his hair standing on end and eyes full of tears. He clasped Sri Ram's feet, much excited with emotion. He was unable to speak, and he stood gazing piteously like a fish taken out of water. There was anxiety in his heart. What is going to happen, O good heavens, he said to himself. All my joy and merits are over now. What will the Lord of Raghus command me to do? Will he leave me at home or take me with him? When Sri Ram saw his brother with joined palms, having renounced his home and reckless about his own body, he addressed him in the following words, well versed as he was in the rules of correct behavior and an ocean of amiability, love, artlessness, and joy. Pray, do not lose your balance of mind out of affection, dear brother, and be convinced in your heart of hearts that the end will be a happy one. Those who reverently and unconstrainedly follow the advice of their father and mother, preceptor and master, have reaped the fruit of their birth, or else their coming into this world has been in vain. Bearing this in mind, brother, listen to my advice, and wait upon the feet of our father and mothers. Bharat and Shatrughna are not at home, while the king is aged and full of grief for my sake. If I proceed to the woods, taking you with me, Ayodhya will be rendered completely masterless, and the preceptor and the parents, the people as well as the family, all will be subjected to a spell of terrible suffering. Stay, then, to comfort all. Otherwise, brother, we shall incur great sin. A king whose reign brings suffering to his beloved people surely deserves an abode in hell. Bearing in mind this maxim, dear brother, stay at home. Hearing this, Lakshman felt much distressed. He turned pale at these soothing words in the same way as a lotus is blasted when touched by frost. Overwhelmed with emotion, he could not answer, but he clasped his brother's feet in anguish. My lord, I am your slave and you my master. If you abandon me, what help? My lord, you have given me a sound advice, but due to my faint-heartedness, it sounds impracticable to me. Only those noble men who are self-possessed and champion the cause of virtue are fit to be taught the gospel of the Vedas and moral philosophy. I am a mere child fostered by your loving care. Can a cygnet lift Mount Mandara or Meru? I know no preceptor, nor father, nor mother. I tell you sincerely, believe me, my lord, whatever ties of affection, love, and confidence exist in the world, as declared by the Vedas, for me, they are all centered in you, and you alone, my lord. O friend of the afflicted, knower of the innermost heart of all, piety and propriety should be taught to one who is fond of glory, fortune, and a noble destiny. He, however, who is devoted to your feet in thought, word, and deed, should he be abandoned, O ocean of grace? Hearing these soft and polite words of his noble brother, the all-compassionate Lord clasped him to his bosom and consoled him, perceiving that he had lost his nerve through love. Go and ask leave of your mother, then quickly return and accompany me to the woods. Lakshman rejoiced to hear these words from the chief of Raghus. Great was his gain, and a mighty loss was averted. He went up to his mother, delighted at heart, as a blind man who had regained his lost vision. Approaching her, he bowed his head at her feet, while his heart was with Sri Ram, the delighter of Raghu's race, and Janaka's daughter. Finding him depressed in spirit, the mother inquired the reason. When Lakshman related at length the whole incident, Sumitra was shocked to hear this cruel report, as a doe on finding wildfire all about her. Lakshman apprehended that things would take a wrong turn that day, and that his mother would frustrate his plans due to her affection. He therefore felt nervous and hesitated in asking leave of her, for he thought within himself, "Good God, will she allow me to accompany Sri Ram or not?" Remembering the beauty, amiability, and noble disposition of Sri Ram and Sita, and considering the king's affection for them, Sumitra beat her head as she perceived that the wicked queen Kaikeyi had played him foul. Perceiving that the time was unpropitious to them, she collected herself, and possessing, as she did, a naturally good heart, spoke in gentle words. "My dear son, Videha's daughter is your mother, while Rama, who loves you in every way, is your father. Ayodhya is there where Ram dwells. There alone is the day where there is sunlight. If Sita and Ram are really proceeding to the woods, you have no business in Ayodhya. One's preceptor, parents, brother, gods, and master, all these should be tended as one's own life. Ram, however, is dearer than life, the soul of our soul, and the disinterested friend of all. Whosoever are worthy of adoration and most dear to us should be accounted as such, only insofar as they are related to Ram. Bearing this in mind, accompany him to the forest, and derive, my boy, the benefit of your existence in the world. It is your great good fortune as well as mine. I solemnly declare that your mind has sincerely taken up its abode in Rama's feet." That woman alone can be said to have borne a male issue, whose son is a devotee of Ram. Otherwise, she had better remain issueless. For she who deems herself fortunate in having a son hostile to Ram has given birth in vain. It is due to your good fortune that Ram is proceeding to the forest. There is no other ground for his doing so, my boy. The highest reward of all meritorious acts is verily this, to have spontaneous love for the feet of Sita and Ram. Never give way, even in a dream, to passion, anger, jealousy, arrogance, or infatuation. Giving up all sorts of morbid feelings, serve them in thought, word, and deed. You will be happy in every way. In the forest, since you will have with you your father and mother, in Ram and Sita. Take care, my son, that Ram may be put to no trouble in the woods. That is my admonition to you. My admonition to you, dear child, is this. It is up to you to see that Ram and Sita lead a happy life in the forest through your good offices, and forget their father and mother, near and dear ones, as well as the amenities of city life. Having thus admonished the Lord of Tulsidas, Lakshman, Sumitra granted him leave to accompany Sri Ram, and then invoked her blessing on him. May your devotion to the feet of Sita and the hero of Raghu's race be constant and untainted and ever new. Bowing his head at his mother's feet, Lakshman left at once with a timid heart, apprehending any further development that might balk his plans and interfere with his accompanying Sri Ram to the forest. It looked as if a deer had luckily succeeded in bursting a strong snare and made good his escape. Lakshman went straight to where the Lord of Janaki, Janak's daughter, was. He was glad at heart to find himself in the company of his beloved brother. Bowing to the charming feet of Sri Ram and Sita, he accompanied them to the king's palace. The men and women of the city said to one another, "How strange that God well nigh fulfilled our hopes and then shattered them." With emaciated bodies, sorrowful hearts, doleful face, they felt miserable as a bee that has been robbed of its honey. They wrung their hands and beat their heads and lamented like birds that had been clipped of their wings and were restless without them. A huge crowd had collected at the entrance of the royal palace, and there was untold grief which knew no bounds. The minister, Sumantra, raised the king and seated him, communicating to him the agreeable news that Sri Ram had come. When he saw his two sons with Sita, his distress was profound. The king felt much agitated as he gazed on his two sons with Sita. Overwhelmed with emotion, he pressed them to his bosom again and again. The king was too restless to speak. There was terrible agony in his heart due to the excess of grief. Most affectionately bowing his head at his father's feet, the hero of Raghu's race then arose and asked his permission to proceed to the woods. "Father, give me your blessings and commands. Why should you be sorrowing at this hour of jubilation? By swerving from the path of duty due to attachment for a beloved object, dear father, one's reputation is lost and obloquy is incurred." Hearing this, the king got up in his love, and holding Sri Ram, the Lord of Raghus, by the arm, he made him sit down. And he said, "Listen, my boy, of you the sages declare that Ram is the Lord of the entire creation, both animate and inanimate. God requites our actions according as they are good or bad, weighing them in the scale of his judgment. He alone who does an act reaps its consequences. Such is the law of the Vedas, and so declare all. But in this case, we find that one commits the offense and another reaps the fruit. Highly mysterious are the ways of God. No one in this world is competent to know them." The king sincerely tried every means to detain Sri Ram, but he discovered Sri Ram's intention and came to know that he was not going to stay. A champion of righteousness, strong-minded, and foresighted as he was. The king thereupon clasped Sita to his bosom and most lovingly admonished her in many ways. He described the terrible hardships of forest life and explained to her the comforts that she would enjoy if she chose to stay with her husband's parents or her own father. Sita's mind, however, was attached to Sri Ram's feet. Hence, neither home seemed attractive to her, nor the forest repulsive. Everyone else, too, expostulated with Sita, dwelling on the many miseries of the forest. The minister, Sumantra's wife, as well as the preceptors, Vasishtas, and other prudent ladies, fondly urged her in gentle tones, "Nobody has exiled you to the forest. Therefore, do as your husband's parents and preceptor bid you." This advice, soothing, friendly, agreeable, and tender as it was, did not sound pleasing to Sita's ears. It seemed as if the touch of the rays of the autumnal moon had made a female Chakravaka bird restless. Sita was too modest to give any reply, but Kaikeyi flared up on hearing their talk, and she brought hermit robes, ornaments, and vessels, and placing them before Sri Ram, addressed him in soft accents. "You are dear as life to the king, O hero of Raghu's line. He is too soft to shake off this scruple and attachment for you. He would sooner forfeit his virtue, good reputation, and his happiness in the other world then ask you to proceed to the woods. Bearing this in mind, do as you please. Sri Ram rejoiced to hear his stepmother's admonition, but her words pierced the king like shafts. Will my wretched life never depart, he said to himself. The people felt much distressed, while the king fainted. No one knew what to do. Sri Ram presently dressed himself as a hermit, and bowing his head to his parents, departed. Having completed all the equipment and preparations for a journey to the woods, the Lord, with his spouse and brother, bowed to the feet of the Brahmanas and the preceptor Vashishta and departed, leaving everyone in bewilderment. Issuing out of the palace, the party halted at Vashishta's door and found the people scorched with the fire of impending separation. The hero of Raghu's race comforted all with soothing words and then summoned hosts of Brahmanas. He requested his preceptor to give them subsistence for a year and captivated their hearts through courtesy, gift, and humility. He gratified mendicants with gifts and attentions and sated his friends with pure love. He then called his menservants and maidservants and, entrusting them to the care of his guru, spoke to him with joined palms. My Lord, pray look after them and tend them as their own father and mother. Again and again, with joined palms, Sri Ram addressed each one present there in soft accents. He alone is friendly to me in every way, through whose good offices the king derives solace. And thus ends the reading for today. So we'll continue in Ayodhya Kand next week. Thank you for your thank you. And people will be able to come a little closer here once we move this.
Cancel it. Unable to stop the streaming.
Yeah. It stopped. You stopped it, right?
No. It's still. Cancel. It's still. Oh, okay.